Welcome, everyone. So I'll go ahead and get started. I imagine we'll have some folks join us as we get going, but I want to let everyone know that if you do have questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand through the raise your hand feature or to submit questions via the chat, and I'll try to answer them as we go. You don't have to wait till the end. We will do a little bit of Q&A at the end, so you can ask more questions there. But feel free to ask me questions along the way. If you're thinking of a question, there may be many other people who are asking that same question. So feel free to just let me know you have a question and we will address that. I'll get started. I'm Jonathan Harwell-Dye. I'm the program manager for the Arts and Business Council. I manage the Periscope Artist Entrepreneur Training Program, as well as a lot of our other programs at the Arts and Business Council. I want to remind everybody that we are recording this session. So just so that you know that if you don't want to turn on your video or anything like that, feel free not to. But we're going to record this as a resource for other people that may have questions about the program. So we'll jump right in. This is an information session about the 2021 Periscope Artist Entrepreneur Training Program. The Arts and Business Council is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that leverages and unites the unique resources of the arts and business communities to create a thriving, sustainable, creative culture in Nashville. We do this by providing direct services, key opportunities, and education to the creative community to help them master the business of art. And we have a 4-person staff. So we have our executive director is Jill McMillan-Palm. I am the program manager. Latanja Burney is our VLPA manager, and VLPA stands for Volunteer Lawyers and Professionals for the Arts. If you have any sort of legal or professional needs, feel free to reach out to our VLPA manager. That is a pro bono service that we offer for artists throughout the entire state of Tennessee. And I highly recommend if you have any legal issues to reach out to us about that. And then Stephanie Reed is our marketing and operations assistant. She helps with managing a lot of our programs, spreading the word about a lot of the work that we do and that sort of thing. In today's presentation, we're going to go over what Periscope is, who is qualified to apply for Periscope, what you can expect from Periscope if you are accepted, Periscope application timeline and process. So we'll talk about the important dates that are coming up for deadlines. We'll also talk about important dates throughout the program. We'll talk about attendance requirements, some success stories and testimonials from past participants, and then we'll open it up just for a general Q&A at the end. So that's sort of the breakdown of the session. So we'll start with what is Periscope. Periscope is an artist entrepreneur training program that empowers working artists to see their vision through an entrepreneurial lens, and we consider it to be intensive and interactive, and it's a curriculum-based program. What does it mean to empower working artists to see their vision through an entrepreneurial lens? What that means is that you're going to be able to look at your creative output, your creative practice, and see how and where business principles can be applied so that you can earn money from the work that you create. And that might be direct sales, that might be licensing and passive income. There's lots of different ways that you as an artist can make a living. And a lot of that is discipline specific, as well as opportunities that include getting paid for your labor, but also getting paid for your intellectual property if you create IP. So there's a lot, the program is really designed for you to be able to understand the underlying business principles of starting and growing a small business. And so that's what we mean by seeing your vision through an entrepreneurial lens. Periscope was founded as a partnership between the Arts and Business Council and the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, Metro Arts, Nashville's Office of Arts and Culture, the Mayor's Office of Economic and Community Development, and the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. Each of those partners came together several years ago and helped us to create and launch this program. We are still we still partner very closely with all of them. particularly the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, who helped us develop the curriculum, and we use some tools that they developed in-house as part of the curriculum for Periscope. So we are teaching some of the same things that if you were to go through a entrepreneurial training program at the Entrepreneur Center, you're going to get access to some of those same lessons, same tools that they provide, but we're going to be looking at it specifically through an artist-focused lens. So we're going to be working alongside artists and creative leaders who are going to be group leaders, mentors, instructors, and things like that. So we bring an arts-based lens to a lot of those tools and resources. Periscope takes place in 3 phases. Those phases begin after you are accepted. You would start, the first part of the program is an 8-week in-person training program. I say in-person, it's probably going to be virtual for most of the year in 2021. We also held it virtually last year. We do anticipate there will be some in-person components this year, but we don't know exactly what those will be, just because we don't know exactly how the vaccine rollout is going to continue and when we're going to be able to meet in person for different things. Last year, the 8-week training all happened completely online, and then some of the other pieces happened in person in a very limited and socially distanced capacity. But the 8 weeks of training starts on March 25th and goes through May 13th. Each training is once a week, and it's half a day, happens on Thursdays. It's held from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So March 25th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then every Thursday after that through May 13th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then after that, on May 13th, you are about that day, you are paired with a mentor. And so that's when the 6 months of one-on-one mentorship begins, is at the end of the training. So you go through 8 weeks of entrepreneurial training, then you get 6 months of one-on-one mentorship with a high caliber business mentor. And what that looks like as far as commitment is a commitment of meeting with you for an hour a month for 6 months. So this is, and that varies sometimes between different mentors. Sometimes you may meet twice a month for half an hour. Sometimes you may meet once a month. Some mentors meet once a week. It does a little bit depend on what your needs are and what they're able to provide to you. Some mentorships are based on that mentor giving you a lot of feedback on plans and things that you're working on. Sometimes that mentor makes a lot of introductions. And so while you may meet with them, they may be introducing you to other people who can help you with different parts of your business that you're trying to understand, that you're trying to grow, that you're trying to develop. So they can look very different and they're very individualized. So when we talk about being sort of one-on-one, you have a dedicated mentor who is working with you for those 6 months. And they, along with everything else they have to do in their life, they're volunteering to be a mentor, but they are specifically there to help you and to help you be able to launch your business. And then the program culminates with the Periscope Pitch and Artist Entrepreneur Showcase. And that in the past has always been a live in-person event. In 2020, we did it all online. We're hoping it happens in September. So we're hoping by September that we're going to be able to host a true in-person event this year. So right now we anticipate that that will be in person, but just like everything else, that's a flexible possibility that it could change, it could have to be reformatted. But after the training, which ends on May 13th, you begin your mentorship. During the summer, we host a couple of different preliminary rounds pitches, and a business pitch is basically getting on stage, talking about your business for 4 minutes and being able to convey everything that you need to convey about your business to an audience, to an investor, to a customer, to a partner, any group that you're trying to target, being able to talk about your business. And so our pitch process, we train you, we help you through the summer to develop your pitch, and then it's a competition where you're able to pitch on it live on stage and win prizes and awards that you can put towards your business. So that happens over the summer. There's preliminaries once a month, and then in September, we have the pitch event where people pitch live on stage. That is competitive, so everyone that participates in the program does not necessarily get to pitch on stage, but everyone does participate in the Artist Entrepreneur Showcase, which is basically like an artist market where people are able to walk around and learn about your business at a table at the beginning of the event, and then we have sort of a live on stage portion of the event. The program fee for participation, if you're accepted, there's no application fee to apply, but if you are accepted, the program fee is $250 per person. And that's really highly discounted. We are able to discount through partnerships and through sponsorships, but the real value is about $1,700 per artist that participates, and the class is limited to 25 artists. So it takes about $1,700 per artist to offer this program every year. That's how we determine that value. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in as we go. I just want to give that reminder out there. I'm happy to take any questions along the way as well, but I will open it up for Q&A at the end. So who can apply? Working artists, and we define a working artist as someone who is making work in any artistic discipline, who is a working professional, although art does not have to be your full-time profession at this time. A lot of people are creating artwork. They might have a side gig. They might be, working in a restaurant. They might be driving Uber. There's 1,000 different things that can look like. You may have a full-time job, but you're trying to develop your creative profession on the side. But you do have to be a working artist. You have to have been creating work. You have to continue to be creating work, and it has to be of a high caliber. And then must be a resident of the state of Tennessee. We only offer this program to artists who live in the state of Tennessee. I've had some questions about whether or not artists in other cities like Knoxville, Chattanooga, Memphis can apply, can participate. And the short answer on that is yes. If you live in Tennessee, you can apply for this program. We are going to offer a lot of it online this year, so that makes it even more accessible. The first year we offered this program, we had an artist from Memphis, and they participated in person. They commuted once a week and came to Nashville, and we're able to do it that way. So it is possible to be able to commute to it, but we do since we are offering it online, it's definitely more accessible, but we do not have any restrictions on where someone lives. Another aspect, though, is you cannot be currently enrolled in a degree granting program. So that means if you're working on your undergraduate degree, if you're working on a graduate degree, and not just in an artistic discipline, you cannot be a college student in any way. You can't be a high school student who's working on your high school diploma. You must be either a graduate, you don't have to be a high school graduate per se, but you can't be enrolled in school while you're participating in this program. And that's another aspect of sort of the concept of the working artist, is that you have completed your academic training and you are now entering into the professional marketplace. So what should you expect from the program? So as we talked about, it is an 8-week in-person training program. It focuses on big picture business modeling. So what we're going to be teaching you is really about understanding how to take your creative product and if you have a business idea from that, to be able to understand the fundamental business model that will drive that business. And a business model is comprised of a lot of different things, but that's resources, partnerships, customers, distribution models. So who are the people that you're going to sell your work to? Who are the partners that you need to work with in order to be able to sell that work? Who are the customers that would buy your work? Are the people that would take your classes if you offer classes or workshops, or who are the people that might license your artwork, your music for film or television, all of those different things. So your business model can look very different depending on the discipline, but that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the underlying business model and teaching those functional and fundamental business practices that you can then use to be able to create, grow your creative business based on your creative output. Each training session begins with a curriculum, and then also there is a small group work during each of the training sessions. Small group is, we have 25 artists in the group. We divide you up into groups of 5. You have a arts leader who is the group leader for your group, and you stay with that small group, meeting as part of the curriculum each week for those 8 weeks. You really dig in with that core group that you're a part of. So it's like a peer network that you can lean on, that you can ask questions to, that you can, go through the process together. And a lot of times that is where the networking and the bonds really take place, and also where people find that sort of person they can rely on, or that group that they can rely on to help them get through the challenges of starting their own business or growing their own business. And then, like I said, a mentorship is another component. So that is, you're paired one-on-one with a high caliber mentor. That mentorship begins at the end of training and goes for 6 months afterwards, meeting for up to at least 1 hour a month for 6 months. So it ends in May. The training ends in May, so you would start meeting with someone in May. You go through either October, November, depending on your meeting schedule. And then exposure, we have the pitch event, and we have year-round opportunities to celebrate your work. The pitch event is really about showcasing every artist who's gone through the program. When you come into the program, you're probably going to have an idea of what your business is going to look like. A lot of times we find that shifts and changes as you learn these different tools and start thinking about things through an entrepreneurial lens. You think about things that you might want to tweak, or you might have a different customer than you thought you did at the beginning. There's lots of different ways that will change. So the pitch event is really that opportunity to represent yourself to the world, to the community, to show them what to expect from you, what you're trying to accomplish, what your new goal is. So that pitch event is really the unveiling of all the work that you do in the Periscope program in a lot of ways. And then whenever we are able to, we try to showcase alumni work on our website, through our email newsletter, on our social media. We try to be an amplifier for your work through that year that you are participating and forward into the future. We'll also reach back out to a lot of alumni to speak on panels, to be part of other programs. We have alumni that have come back to be group leaders, to be instructors, to be panelists for different things in Periscope. So we have, I think it's like 125 Periscope alumni at this point. So we try to involve a lot of those artists in the process now and bring them back to be able to meet and work with artists that come through the program now. A typical training day will begin at 9 a.m. and for about an hour and 15 minutes, the training session will be led by an Entrepreneur Center advisor. So we work with the Nashville Entrepreneur Center to have different individuals teach lessons each week. So each of the 8 weeks, you will come in, there will be a training session. It'll last for about an hour and 50 minutes, and then you'll break out into your group sessions. And in your breakout sessions, you will work with your artist group leaders. So all of the group leaders are local artists from Nashville. Some are alumni of the program, some are successful artists in other ways, and they will go through the homework that you do each week. So in between each session, there is some sort of homework, applying the things that you learn in the class to your business ideas. So it's really about taking what you're learning each week and sort of applying that and coming back and saying, hey, I think this is what I'm trying to do here, and talking that through with your group each week. That first session and that group work, that's all cumulative. So each week it builds on itself. So what you learn the first week, in the third week or the fourth week, you may come back and be like, I really didn't understand this in the first week, but now I see how it applies. And I'm going to go back and rework that homework assignment from week 1 or week 2. And at week 8, you might be going back and thinking, oh, you know what? I really want to rethink what I did in week 4 or week 5. And so all of that is very cumulative. It's going to build on itself. You're going to continue to get a deeper and a firmer grasp on your business model and what you're trying to accomplish, and really where you want to take your creative business. And a lot of times that shifts and changes throughout the program. And then over the summer, as you're developing your pitch, that's really when you're refining and defining exactly what that's going to be, and sort of making hard decisions and say, this is exactly, I know where I want to go now. I have a firm plan in place, and I'm going to communicate that very effectively through the pitch. So the training session, at the end of the training, you don't know everything that you're going to do. You're going to continue to be applying that from throughout the mentorship and the pitch process, so that you have a full-fledged business model, business plan for yourself. And then every week, we also like to bring in some practical and tangible takeaways. So we do a lunch and learn at the end. So from 9 to noon, you're focusing on the curriculum that of that week and the homework that you've done. And then from noon to 1 p.m., we do a lunch and learn. So we bring in different arts leaders, business professionals, allies, and they're going to come in and talk about very practical skills. And that's everything from time management and organization to mental health to QuickBooks and accounting and things like that. So they're going to be tools that you can apply. They're not cumulative in the same way that those other sessions or the other parts of the sessions are. It's going to be a different topic each week. We change them up year to year based on feedback from past groups. So if we get a lot of feedback over the years and we see like, oh, artists need to learn more about how to negotiate for themselves, how to be better advocates for themselves, then we'll bring in someone to talk about how do you negotiate? What are the fundamental tools that you need to be a better negotiator? How do you get comfortable doing that? A lot of people are not comfortable negotiating for themselves. And so we use that feedback and try to improve and build on the program each year. So those lunch and learns are sort of on top of what you're learning from the curriculum each week, but meant to complement it and to help you be able to have stuff that you can apply each week and as you move forward. So this is the timeline, and this is very important in terms of applications. So we opened up applications on, So we opened up applications on January 4th. Today is January 18th, so we're doing the Periscope information session. And then February 5th at noon is the last day for nomination. So one of the ways that we recruit artists for Periscope is we open the program up to nominations, and we have a lot of alumni, community members that will nominate artists who they know, who they think are a really great fit for the program, who would benefit from Periscope. And so we accept those through February 5th. We reach out to anyone who's been nominated and invite them. You do not have to be nominated to apply for Periscope, but it is one way that we are able to identify artists who might benefit from the program. February 11th at noon, that's the big deadline. That is when your application, your work samples, all of your materials must be submitted by that date. Oh, I see a question has popped up. Okay, so first question, I have a question about the mentors. I can't remember if you want them sent to the chat. Oh, yeah, I can definitely answer that question. Is it Cassis? You can unmute yourself if you want to ask the question about the mentors.
Oh, yeah, it was mostly just like how you pick them. Is it based on discipline? Like, would you get a mentor that is working in a similar business structure or similar art structure as you, or is it sort of a random pairing?
Well, it is not random, but it is not necessarily someone who is working in your discipline. A lot of the mentors will be business professionals who may have some ties to an art background. Some don't necessarily have an art background because they're trying to mentor you on fundamental sort of business skills that apply across all business. The way that we pick mentors for artists is based on your application, the business that you're trying to create, your discipline, all of that goes into those factors, as well as the mentors that are available. We have mentors that will mentor for several years and they'll be like, I can't do it next year. You might have to find somebody else. So we have a pool of mentors that we work with, and that's always changing. We have new mentors coming every year. We have some mentors that sort of roll out every year. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But we pair them based on the skills that you are really hoping to focus on. So we may get someone who's like, oh, I really understand marketing. Like I've got that down. I worked in that, as a profession. So I don't really need a coach that can help me with marketing, but I do not understand the accounting side of this. And I have a lot of questions about that. And I'd like to be paired with someone who has that sort of knowledge. So what we're really doing is we're trying to fill a skill gap for you, or find a mentor that can help you with specific things that will sort of help you launch your business. That may also be network. It may be someone that's in the industry that you're in, but what you need is to be introduced to people, and you need to be able to make connections with new people and network. So we may pair you with someone like that. So it's not random, but it's not discipline specific either. We're not saying, okay, you must have a background in music to work with someone who's a musician. You must have a background in visual art to work with a visual artist. Sometimes that's really important, but sometimes what's more important is the business knowledge that that person has.
Right. That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And Aaron has a question as well. What kind of applicants are a good fit for this? Okay, yeah, let me talk about that. So what kinds of applicants? Aaron, I'm going to go through this slide and the next. I'm going to come back to your question, because I think the really important thing is to understand what they're judging on versus sort of what makes a good applicant. I think that's a very big question. But once I get to that, I'll kind of touch on that a little bit deeper. But I'm going to go to that slide so we can talk about how applications are scored, and then I'll give you feedback on that. Okay, so the application process. So a completed application, first you must complete the online application that's on our website. I'll give you that link at the end, but on our website we have a online application. It is a Google form. It's super simple, but you must first complete that on our website, and then you must submit work samples and a resume. Work samples are interesting because depending on the discipline that you work in and the business that you want to create, your work samples may look different. If you send an audio or video sample, we ask for 2 samples that are up to 5 minutes maximum. If you send in digital images of your work, we ask for 4 to 6 images that best represent your work. If you are coming in as a literary artist or someone who works with the written word in any way, then we're going to ask you for manuscripts, 2 samples, up to 5 pages max. And it could be, if you're multidisciplinary, it could be a mix of any of those things. With the work samples, the biggest thing is to understand that we are asking people to score your applications. And so we can't give them, okay, I've written a book, I want them to read my entire book as part of my application. They don't have the kind of time to do that. We can't give them a film. If you're a filmmaker, we can't give them an hour-and-a-half long film and ask them to do that. They wouldn't have the time. They don't commit that long to it. So what you have to do is you have to submit a sample. If it's audio, it might be a couple of songs. If it's video, it might be a music video. It might be a trailer for your work as a videographer or filmmaker. It might be, it might be a snippet or a selection from a film or some sort of video that you've made. It might be a video of an installation. Like if you're an installation artist, it might be a video tour of an actual installation. That would qualify as well. You might submit digital images of your work along with a single video of that work. That would be perfectly acceptable. If it's a manuscript, for example, if you are in book arts, you might want to scan in a sample of pages, send in 5 pages from it, but then you might want to also send in some images to demonstrate sort of the physical characteristics, the quality of that handmade object. So you may want to have written word along with that. So you can send in any sort of combination of these. We definitely don't want you to not send in enough work, but you don't want to overload people, especially when it comes to video and manuscripts and things like that. Definitely pay attention to those limits. 5 minute max, 5 pages max, that sort of thing. Yeah, I can definitely show you the previous screen, Kimberly. This is the previous screen with the deadlines, and the application deadline, we notify everyone by March 4th about their acceptance. March 25th, the training begins. We talked about that. May 13th, training ends. Mentorship begins. Over the summer, we have pitch preliminaries. That's where you do your pitch in front of coaches, and they give you feedback so you can improve on it. And then the pitch event is in September. I don't have a firm date on it. It's usually the week of Labor Day or the week after Labor Day. May be very different this year. That is, dependent on a lot of different things. I'll also, Kimberly, I will share these slides with everyone after the fact. So I'll email this out to you so you have a copy of it as well. Okay, so we talked about application materials. You must fill out the application on our website. You must submit work samples. Those have to be emailed to us. We don't accept them through the application, so you actually have to email those. Instructions are in the application. And then your resume or CV, we ask that it be 3 pages max and that it be submitted in Word or PDF format only. So please pay special attention to those instructions as well. A lot of these restrictions on submissions are based on helping the jurors have the easiest, most efficient time scoring the application. So a lot of these restrictions are about making sure that everybody can open everything, that they have access to everything. We try to check everything when we receive it, but we don't want to send stuff out to a juror and then get feedback back that they couldn't open a video, they couldn't view your resume or your CV or something like that. We don't want to run into those compatibility issues. Okay, Ashley has a question. Ashley Stevens. She says, I am a visual artist with an emphasis in hands-on creations. When it comes to the resume or CV, what are you specifically looking for? I've been in some trade shows and I'm selling online. The resume, are you wanting info on what work experience? Okay, that's a great question that gets asked a lot. For your resume or CV, the biggest thing you want to think about is you want it to be applicable to what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm not going to say there's not a hard and fast rule in terms of you're not applying for a job. So we're not trying to see your work history of what restaurants you've worked in or whatever sort of jobs that you've had that aren't necessarily applicable to your industry. However, we've had food photographers in the past, they submitted a CV, they talked about their experience in the restaurant industry, how they started photographing work because they're just as part of the job that they had, and how that turned into something where they became a full-time food photographer working with restaurants and building that. So it's very relevant to them. So what you include in your CV is really about telling us a story about why you are qualified to accomplish what you say you're going to accomplish in your application. If you're a visual artist and you've been in exhibitions, definitely include that. If you've taken workshops from important people, include that. If you have a degree in your field, include that. But it's okay. It's not about your work history. It's about your knowledge in what you're trying to accomplish through this program in your artistic discipline. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process. And Aaron, this is where I'll come back to your question. So panelists evaluate portfolios based on this criteria, and that is quality, creative vision, motivation/need, diversity representation, and overall impression. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into those. So quality, creative vision is really about the level of your work, that you're creating work at a high level. Your creative vision is demonstrating that you can create work, that you have a vision for your work, that you're trying to take it somewhere, that you see it as a business possibly. That might be something that you want to emphasize. But it's really about understanding the quality of your work, the vision that you have, what you're trying to accomplish as an artist in whatever discipline that may be, music, dance, visual art, whatever that looks like for you. So that's really about the quality. I will say we have a lot of artists that apply for Periscope and they're not necessarily interested in learning the business side of things. And that's not a good fit, Aaron. I think that's a really important part of this. As far as applicants, you have to want to create some sort of business. And that might, for a ceramic artist, that might look like a studio practice where you sell online, you have a few galleries that sell your work or a few stores that sell your work, and that you do the fair circuit. So you might have those sorts of things that you're trying to build a business around. I think that's really important and really a good way to convey that. If you're a dance dancer or a choreographer. It might be that you want to open a dance studio, something like that. So definitely being able to show the quality of your work, your creative vision, but also how that translates to, like, what's your business idea? Like, well, how do you think you're going to make money at this? How do you want to make money at this? What are you open to? What are you not open to? Like, talk about that in your application, especially. Motivation, need, and I think this also feeds into motivation. Like, tell us what motivates you. What are you passionate about? How do you want to impact the world around you through your work? And why do you want, and how is this program, how is understanding the business, the entrepreneurial skills that you're going to develop through Periscope, how are they, like, why are you motivated to learn that? How are they going to help you have that impact in the world? The need, also, talk about your need. If you got out of school and you're like, I have an MFA and I am an expert in this discipline and I've spent my life training on this, but I do not understand anything about business and I need to learn those fundamentals because, 80% of the people in my career field are freelancers. And if I'm going to be successful, I must build a freelance business. That is a need that you have because you have chosen a discipline that 80% of the people, are freelance creatives, freelance artists. That can look very different for everyone, but your motivation is that's your driving force, the impact you want to have in the world. And your need is, why do you need, what is this program going to give you that you don't have already? What skills do you want to develop that you don't have? Why do you think you can develop those? Like, what's your motivation to develop those? That sort of thing. Diversity and representation is also considered. And this has to do with racial, gender diversity in terms of the program. It also has to do with diversity in terms of whether you live in a city, whether you live in a small town. All of that's taken into consideration. Discipline is taken into consideration. We don't want to have a group of 25 visual artists. We want to have a group that has visual artists, choreographers, filmmakers, musicians, sculptors, ceramicists, the entire spectrum. We want to have as diverse a group as possible. And we want to make sure that we are available to any group that is underrepresented. So diversity and representation in what you create and who you are all important to the application process and part of the way that the portfolios are scored. And then overall impression, that's sort of the last piece. Each of the judges is going to score you on those different areas. And then they're just going to be like, overall, like, just taking this as a whole, this is how I score it. So that's really understand, like, the whole package. What does your application say? What story does it tell? What does your portfolio show? Do they line up? Do the aspirations that you express about your creative practice, the business that you'd like to create, does that line up with the portfolio that you've submitted, with the CV that you've submitted? Like, does that complete package make sense? Or does it leave them wondering, like, how did you come to this conclusion that you would do this? Or why are you making this pivot? If you are, and that's what you should look at. When you think about everything that you submit, you should look at it from the lens of someone who's never heard of you, has no idea what kind of work you make. And are you telling them a complete story about who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, the impact you're trying to make in the world? That's your goal of your application. And that's sort of that overall impression is that final piece of that. So that's how they are scored. We recruit panelists from throughout the area. Some of them are past participants. Some of them are local arts leaders, curators, artists, program partners, alumni. It's the whole spectrum of that group. They're different every year. We have some people that come back every year, but we also try to bring in new people. Last year, I believe we received 69 applications, I believe is right. I think we received 69 completed applications last year. And that's about average. I think it's going to be a little bit higher this year. I'm going to estimate that we will receive somewhere between 75 and 100 applications this year, and we will select 25 artists from those applications. So about either a third to a quarter of the applicants will get into the program. Thank you for the question, Keisha. Okay. The other thing that's really important, and we always try to emphasize this when we talk about the program before someone starts, is understanding how important attendance is. Please, on our website, we have listed the program dates and times for all of the training sessions. There are the pitch preliminaries and the pitch event. We don't have firm dates on that. But for the other stuff, the program dates, especially the training dates, those are extremely important. We have, as I just said, many applications. We can only accept a smaller group. And so to ensure that the program is as good as it can be and the experience is as good for everyone, we ask everyone to attend all of the training sessions. It's all going to be online only this year, but there may be some in-person events after the training or at some point during the year. But not attending classes, basically, you lose that week's worth of information. You can make up some of that, but that presence, being there is really important. If there are 75 applications and 25 people are accepted this year, that means there are going to be 50 artists who didn't get that opportunity this year. And so we look at attendance. You know, if you're not showing up for that, then you're really taking that spot away from someone who would have been able to show up. So it's extremely important. You're going to get the biggest benefit from the program when you're there. So we do emphasize that we expect everyone to fully attend all of the training sessions. And now we're going to kind of talk about some testimonials. I will read some of these, but these are what people have said in the surveys. After the program, we survey participants, and this is just some of the feedback that they've given. I wasn't sure what to expect, so it is easy to say that my expectations were met and exceeded. This program has been totally affirming and life-changing. I would love to be involved in any way in the future. After the program, this person said, I know the value of my work. I can objectively set a price based on materials and time spent, as well as perceived value, and I'm much more confident in asking for those higher prices. I think a lot of people can relate to that, the difficulty of understanding how to price your work and feeling bad about pricing it too high or too low. That's something that we talk about in this program, especially understanding what you should be thinking about when you're setting your prices. And I think that's just a really great testament for the program. Here's some other stuff, talking about confidence, talking about understanding business concepts, their mentor and how helpful their mentor was in the program. We have a lot of great feedback about mentors and how that helps people. I think the mentorship is one of the most valuable pieces of the program. So this is just some of what people have said about that in the past. And then I really like this last quote, which talks about Periscope has focused my goals and allowed me to write down actual steps I need to take in order to complete those goals. Before, all of these heads were floating around in my head, but now I feel like I have a set path before me. And that's really what we focus on in Periscope, is being able to take the vision that you have and help you to build both a plan for it, but also understand how to change your plan based on what you learn in new information. We focus on not a written business plan, but understanding your business model. And a business model, if you change a part of a business model, then that sort of impacts all the other pieces. So you're like, okay, I'm creating work, but you know, I'm going to create a painting. It's going to cost me this much. This is the value. This is how much I'll sell it for. And then you realize, you know what? I'm not going to create this type of work anymore. And I'm going to shift it. So all of these pieces shift. That's a really important part of the program, is it really helps you to write down your goals, but also understand how to take steps towards those goals, and also how to adjust if your goals change through the process. And let me tell you, everyone's goals change, either in Periscope or just because of life. You know, 2 years ago, people would not have had goals, the same goals they have now after going through almost a year of a pandemic. People's goals have changed, life changes. So being able to understand that and being able to know how to change is a really important part of Periscope and something that we emphasize. This is just a list of some of our alumni. There's a full list of our alumni on our website, so you can look at that by year. Lindsay Walker, Sarah Shearer, Rashad Rayford, Stephanie Pruitt, Colleen Phelps. These are all Periscope alums. Check our website. There's over 125 alumni now. You can get a sense of that. If you know someone, if you go to our website and find someone, see if there's someone on there that you know, I highly recommend talking to an alum, asking them what their experience was like. I think that's the best way to find out if Periscope is right for you, is to talk to someone who's been through it before. Okay, I see a question. Regarding the nominations, other than Periscope alum, who can nominate artists? Anyone can nominate an artist. We do not limit that in any capacity. We invite alumni, we invite arts leaders, we invite program partners, past mentors, past instructors, anyone who has worked with the program in the past, we invite them to make nominations. We announce it in our email newsletter to the public. Anyone in the world can nominate someone for Periscope. The reason that we do that is because what we're trying to do is we're trying to broaden our network. We don't know everyone in the arts community in Tennessee or even in greater Nashville. And so we're always trying to identify artists who would benefit from this program and entrepreneurial training as a whole. So anyone can nominate. It's open. That's an open process. But when someone is nominated, we submit that. We then reach out to them, invite them to apply. Some of you may have already been nominated, and you would have received an email from us inviting you to apply based on that nomination. Okay, so now we're going to open it up to Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment so I can put everybody into a gallery view just so I can see if anybody has any questions. But I kind of want to open it up. Feel free to unmute yourself, ask a question. You can ask the question in the chat. But I've found that a lot of this is everybody has questions, so feel free to ask some more questions, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Hey, do you have a question?
Yes, I have one question. I wanted to know, when we're looking at the application process, because you receive so many applications, what are some of the things that have disqualified some applicants in the past?
The biggest thing that would disqualify an applicant would be not submitting a full application. So if they don't submit a CV or they don't submit work samples, it's an incomplete application that would disqualify them. If they are enrolled in a university or in some degree granting program, that would disqualify them. The other thing is if they're, the only other way that their application would be disqualified is if, it was incoherent or, something unusual about it that we were unsure about. Which we would likely reach out to an artist if we had some questions. If we don't have your work samples before the deadline, we would definitely email you unless you submitted right there on the deadline. We would contact you and try to say, hey, I hope you didn't forget to submit your work samples, or maybe you submitted them and there was a typo in the email address or whatever that might be. We do try to reach out to people and ensure that. But in terms of their application not going through and getting to the jury, that's very unusual and would usually be because they had an incomplete application or they didn't meet one of those qualifying criteria that I talked about earlier of being a Tennessee resident, being a working artist. And a working artist does not mean someone who has to be a full-time artist, but they can't be in a degree granting program. They must be a resident of Tennessee. Those things would disqualify you.
I had a question and now I think I have forgotten. Oh, I remember. Maybe I missed this earlier on, but who is teaching our weekly classes? Is it
Yeah,
you
so
guys or?
it's not me. It is, we have different instructors each week. They are different, and they are from the Entrepreneur Center. So we partner with the Entrepreneur Center on this program. And so they have a list of advisors. We also have a list of advisors. Some of them are on both lists, but we have different people that come in each week and teach those topics. So it's not the same instructors each week. It's different instructors, and they are not necessarily the same instructors. We have a base curriculum, and so we can have someone that teaches that curriculum. They may be a different person each year. The person that will be there with you each week who is going to be consistent is going to be that small group leader. And those are arts leaders, artists who have either been through the program or have been successful in their creative business in some way. So you will be assigned a group leader at the beginning of the program, and you'll be in a small group with 5 other artists. So anyone accepted in the program, they're in a small group with 5 artists. They have a group leader, and they stay with that group and that group leader through the entire program. So the instructor might be different each week, but then that group work, that will be the same team every week.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Erin,
If you have multiple, go ahead.
Erin, you do not have to be nominated to apply. Anyone can apply. We do not limit it to someone who has been nominated, so that's okay. You do not have to be nominated to apply. Okay, go ahead with your question.
If you have multiple interests, how do you apply? Do you just select like one overarching interest, or can you do multiple ones?
The best way to go through Periscope is to focus on a specific goal, a specific business goal that you have. So you may have a lot of different things that you work on, but if you could, when you submit your application, you're really going to want to focus on the thing that if you're going to spend basically a year of 2021, if you could spend a year and you could make any one of the things you do sort of your full-time job, what would that be? That would be the approach to Periscope that I would advise. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do that you can't do the other things. And it doesn't mean that through the process, you're not going to change to a different thing, or you're not going to incorporate them in different ways to what you do. That depends a little bit on discipline. But the idea of Periscope is really about focusing in on something that you can really put all your effort behind to make it something that can be a business and can sustain you fully. Let me ask you a question. Could you give me some examples of the kind of stuff you're talking about?
Well, just being a content creator, like I love writing as well as taking doing photography and videography. And so I typically juggle all 3 of those. And I noticed that was a part of the work samples you have to submit and in the video footage and in photos.
So as a content creator, if you were to start a business, what kind of business would it be? Would you be someone who is hired to create content for someone, or how would you imagine making money doing that?
Yeah, I'm mostly trying to transition into being like a producer and director. So I would apply from a video standpoint.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. So I think that if you're like, okay, I want to be a producer, and you want to come at it from that angle, and you want to talk about that through a content creation lens, I think you could do that. And I think you can also talk about, as a producer, you have to be a writer, you have to be a content creator, you have to have the photography, videography skills, you have to have the writing skills, you have to have the organization skills. So any of those things, like I think that, but that's when you talk about your overall application, you really want to convey that across in there, sort of like how all the pieces come together. If you have an application and it feels very disparate, that's going to be confusing to the juror unless you can explain, this isn't really disparate. This is all of this, these are pieces of this pie that I'm trying to make, and this is why they are all important. This is why I've submitted that. So in your application, that's what you want to convey to them, is this is where I want to go, and these are the skills that I have that all add up to being a producer.
Thank you so much for answering that question. I did have one more, and it was about the in-person events. So what type of in-person events would be inside of this program?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like this year. Last year, we met completely online for the training. I anticipate that's going to be the same this year. In the past, the training sessions have been in person. So, you know, normally we would have the training sessions in person, and then over the course of the summer, you might meet with your mentor in person. You might meet with them over the phone, or Zoom now is very common. And then we do preliminary. So the pitch event is in September. This year, I anticipate the pitch event will be in person. That could definitely change. But if that would be an in-person event if we do that. And then the preliminaries, which are basically you come in and give your pitch privately to us and maybe some coaches or judges. And over the summer, there'll be a few times that happens. Those will be in person. And the way that we did it last year, we did those in person, and we had one person come in. We sort of did 15-minute time slots. One person came in at a time. We had people there. They were socially distanced, far away, masked. And then you would come in, you would do your pitch, and then they would give feedback in the moment, and then they would type up their feedback, and we'd share that with everyone. So that sort of stuff there will be some sort of in-person component to the pitch process, which is, and I should mention this, I didn't mention earlier, the pitch portion is completely optional, although we do ask that everybody participate in the Artist Entrepreneur Showcase. But doing a pitch on stage, that's part of the program, but it's not the important part of the program. It's just a piece of it. The most important part is building and growing and creating your business. So I don't think any trainings will be in person. If we do a training in person, it'll probably have an online option and an in-person option. But what will probably happen is we'll do some sort of in-person thing over the summer, and then possibly that pitch event in the fall. And that's all subject to like the vaccine rolling out in the right way and there not being health concerns. If there are health concerns, then we will change that and we will do things virtually.
Is there an age limitation?
There is not too much of an age limitation. We do ask that everyone be an adult, so we don't accept anyone under 18, but there is no age limit on the top end. It's basically anyone 18 and above. It's very rare that we have people that are under 21, 22 years old, just because most people in the arts go on to some sort of academic study. So we have a lot of people that are right after college apply. We have a lot of sort of mid-career people who want to make a change, who maybe they have a passion and they want to finally sort of take that passion to the next level. But there is no age limit other than you can't be under 18 and you can't be a student enrolled in the degree granting program.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I just want to say, just a moment, I'll take your question. I want to let everybody know that we are at 7 p.m. If you need to go, feel free to leave. I will stay and answer more questions just so that people have an opportunity. You're all welcome to stay until all the questions are answered, but don't feel obligated to stay if you feel like you've gotten all your questions answered. You are free to go. It is 7 p.m. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any other questions on our website, you can contact me at my email address, or you can email our info at. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. If you have other questions or you think of other questions, feel free to reach out to me and I will be glad to help you in any way I can. I'm going to throw my email up in the chat just so you have it. But I wanted to say that if anyone needs to leave, feel free to go ahead and do that. I have recorded the session and I will send the slideshow to everybody who participated today. I'm going to look at the video and make sure that it's okay. I may have to send the slideshow first because it takes a while to edit the videos. But I'll try to share the video with you. I'll definitely share the slides with you. And if you have other questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please let me know what your question is.
No problem. I really do appreciate this information session. Um, Really quick question. When I'm looking at the resume portion of it, I'm a person who is transitioning from another career, and
Mhm,
I've already started my business in art because I work in visual arts,
mhm,
and I have a store already. But as far as things, I'm trying to figure out what I would put on the resume because I started during pretty much right before COVID really hit. So I
mhm.
don't have, I don't know, any showcases like that per
Yeah,
se. But I do have things like I do have sales and I've had customers and things like that.
I think it's fine. Like, don't feel like you can't put that stuff on there, especially if you were just transitioning. Um, and if you have, if you have any career experience that you think is relevant is really important. You don't. So don't feel like you don't have to show that. The biggest thing I think is in your CV um, and in your application, talk about the things that you've learned in those different areas and how you're going to apply that to your business. That'll be important. And if you're just transitioning into that, but you've had a lot of different experience, talk about that in your application and feel free to show that on your resume. Don't feel like you have to, like it has to only be art when you're just moving into sort of a new art business. That's okay too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, I see Ashley has a question in the chat. Do you know of any good examples for resumes for visual artists that would be good to use as a reference? I do not know that. Actually, I don't know of that. I will say this though. You can go on our website and look at alumni of the program. And if you see any visual artists that go to their website, look at how they format their CV on their website. Any artists that you locally, for example, if there's an artist or a group of artists that check out their websites and see how they format their CV. I think that would be a really good way to do it. My advice is generally to put the most important information first. So if you are applying for, let's say, as a choreographer, then I would start with my choreography experience, and then I might show, other experience, and then I might show volunteer experience, community engagement, and then I might talk about education at the end. If you're just out of school, education might be at the top because it's the most recent and important thing. If you're several years out of college, usually that should be toward the end. If you didn't go to college, that doesn't matter. But I usually start with the most important information first. A lot of visual artists specifically are going to list a lot of exhibitions on their resumes and CVs. So that may be something to look at in terms of if you're listing exhibitions, like we ask that you keep it to 3 pages. If you've had a long career and you've been in a lot of exhibits and had a lot of your work published in different ways, that list might be much longer than 3 pages. And so what I would say is find the most, like the highest profile, highest caliber exhibitions that you were in, your solo shows, your museum shows, things like that. I would take out sort of the minor shows, if you will, and highlight only the sort of top tier stuff so that you keep under that limit. But yeah, that's my advice is look at some other artists online and look at how they formatted their CVs, and then just think about putting the most important information first. And also think about how your application, your work samples, and your CV tell a story about who you are in terms of your motivation and the impact that you want to have in the world, why you want to do this, and why you think this program would benefit you and help you to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. Any other questions? Okay, most everybody's gone now, but if you are not, this is my email on a slide as well. And the application deadline, like I said, February 11th. Remember, the deadline is at noon. We do that so that we're in the office when you are, in case there's a last minute emergency, you can reach us. Technically right now we work virtually, but you can still email us and say, hey, it's 15 minutes to the deadline and I'm having a big problem, and we'll be available to help. So that's one reason we do the noon deadline. A lot of people ask why we do that, but that's why. But feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to me if you have any questions. You can also, if you go on our website, you can email info@abcnashville.org. That's our general email. Either way, someone will reach out to you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you all will apply for Periscope this year. I hope you all get in, and I look forward to hearing from you and hopefully working with you later on this year. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your evening.